Hello, everyone. Welcome to this message. So, as our first card, we get Iris of the Rainbows, and the next two cards that come after that are the Undressing of a Salad and Luatha's the Wild. And yeah, of course, Iris of the Rainbows is a card of it speaks to Greek mythology, right? And Iris is a creates a rainbow bridge between heaven and earth, right? Between the gods and humanity. So she is a messenger, right? Bringing messages back and forth from God and earth. So maybe there's something about because what connects to that a little bit more. There's also like this idea a little bit of like perhaps a little bit of a visionary idea because it has like it really does stand out to me a little bit today, like this idea about Taurus. You have the symbol of Taurus here, and yeah, symbol of Taurus really stands out to me, and also the Sagittarius. The idea of Sagittarius, perhaps, so these two zodiac signs. So it could be that you are, um, could it be hitting the mark? Maybe when you are incredibly grounded, perhaps, like maybe when you're living a very earthly, everyday life. Maybe God wants to say, like, you don't want to underestimate the kinds of messages that you are sending out into the world, that you are giving to the world, because they are incredibly powerful. Maybe you hit your mark very, very, like you are right on point, perhaps. So it could have something to do with that, because there's something here about this ginger, right? There's an image of a ginger vegetable on it, and it says at the bottom temperance, not too much, right? So I do think, especially in combination with the heart, the Lorman card of the heart, which has to do with anything that is heart based, right? So it could be when you follow your heart in terms of what kind of messages you are, what kind of a messenger you are, or what kind of messages you are giving. When you follow your heart, or when you speak from the heart, for example, like it is quite powerful, right? So you maybe you don't want to share too much because it is coming from God, right? So it's coming from this is coming from God. It's really really powerful, and when you add a really grounded lifestyle to that, you become perhaps an even stronger messenger also in terms of the heart space, right? So maybe when you are very heart based, when you follow your heart in terms of the messages you are giving, it's incredibly powerful. There's something about that you want to be you don't want to share too many messages, perhaps. Could be that maybe you want to temper yourself a little bit with that because it is so powerful, because it is coming from God, right? And and there's something here as well. We have like the undressing of a salad. So maybe you are creating messages within an impossible situation. This makes sense actually. So what I'm getting with that what I'm receiving here is that God may be hindering you in some kind of way because these messages are so powerful. So So if you are, for example, wondering like, why is it so hard for me to create a message, to sit down and create a message, for example, why are there so many obstacles? Then quite likely this is God doing this. So if there are certain circumstances where you are just not able to create anything, to create videos or something, it is because you are an incredibly powerful messenger, and these messages need to be tempered because they are so powerful, right? So I do think that it may pertain to that. So if you don't have a lot of time, if you feel blocked in some kind of way, this may be because it's this idea about navigating an impossible situation while you have to deliver messages, right? So it could be that you're like, it's just simply impossible for me to create a video. It's simply impossible for me to share something or whatever, right? Like to be a divine messenger. I'm like navigating this impossible situation, God, right? Like this is not easy to do, but it's actually because God is blocking you in some kind of way because it is so powerful what you are sharing. So it needs to be tempered. It needs to be given in little tiny bits and pieces, perhaps, right? And especially also if you are following your heart, you can't, it's really, really powerful what you are doing. So you can't, like, whatever you are creating in terms of, for example, like services for the world or something, if these services are heart based, right, then you don't want to underestimate the impact of that. That's pretty much what this is. So it needs to be given with tiny bits and pieces. So if you're being slowed down, so for example, if you notice that you can't really, for example, if you are a tarot reader or something, right, and like you create, you have a service where you deliver messages, and you're like, um, why are people not buying this service, for example? It's because it is so powerful, and that's the reason, because it is heart based, because it was created in divine inspiration, right? So it's really, really powerful, and maybe even medicinal in a sense. So it could be that there is something about you as a messenger being quite medicinal in a sense. So it needs to be delivered in tiny bits and pieces. So I do think it has something to do with that. And you will be making progress, but only in tiny bits and pieces, perhaps, as a result of that. But it's not that you're not being given the green light, because Luatas the Wild is a card of green light, right? Right? God gives you the green light. So it's not like God is not on board with what you are doing. It's much more that it is incredibly powerful. So it needs to be tempered in a way. Um, so that's what this is talking about. And perhaps there is also a witch on this card. So maybe there is something about witchcraft, perhaps. But I don't think that that witchcraft will be hindering you, like, because God is giving you the green light. So I do think this is a confirmation from God to say this is not witchcraft what you're noticing. So if you are noticing, like, for example, like, I suspect there's witchcraft or there is some kind of a demonic attack happening, because like, I just am not able to sit down or create a video, or whenever you are going outside, for example, to create a message, and like it's just not working, or perhaps even you are being disturbed in some kind of way. It is not because of demonic warfare. It's not because of witchcraft. It's because God is tempering your influence, your impact on the world, because it is so powerful, because it is coming from God, right? And as well, what I find it very interesting, we have the 2 and the 4 and then 42. So there is a connection here. There's a mirror here, right? So there's something about, because your heart is so powerful, right? Maybe your heart, what you're exuding from the heart, that it is, what you are doing is incredibly powerful. So it needs to be tempered as a result of that. It is connected. So let's see. But you are being given the green light. So it's not that God is stopping you. Not, no, not at all. God is actually creating this impossible situation, because it, God is trying to create less messages because it is so powerful, or less, like, things happening. Like, if you're not selling something, for example, it's not because you are offering a service that people don't want or something. It is because God is involved in that, right? Then we have the bodacious bodak. So the bodacious bodak is an unhelpful meddler. So a person that is seeking to help you out, but is actually being quite unhelpful. So these are like people who are saying, like they are just very unsupportive, you could say. They give you advice that is not very helpful, or like they try to help and they make things worse for you. So that's what this card is about, right? So unhelpful meddlers. And maybe you also feel like you're being hindered, because the Gabriel card is also a card of being hindered, right? So maybe, but this again says this very clearly, like the friends card that comes next, that you are not actually being hindered, you're actually being uplifted. So God is seeking to uplift you actually to a next level, and in order to bring you to this next level, to actually create progress, because 2 and the 4 also relates to a 6, which means progress to me. So if you want to create progress, you need to temper it a little bit, right? Like, for example, if you want to perhaps sell more services, you need to create less messages, perhaps, right? So it could be that God is actually helping you out, although you don't really feel like you're being helped out, right? Or that you are not really capable of like sharing a lot of messages, but it's because it is so powerful. So I do think there is a positive side effect to this. There is a tempering for the sake of the people who are connecting to you, but it could also be because it actually helps you out in some kind of way. So maybe you will be able to sell more services as a result of you tempering it a little bit, or because people are, maybe you are creating a really valuable service, and that's exactly why it is, people don't purchase your services so much because it is so valuable, right? So that, but there is definitely something here about God has something to do with this. And yeah, so let's see. So if we go top to bottom, right? So you are a messenger, and there's something about a meddling. Um, maybe you feel like your ability to give messages that you are being meddled with in some kind of way. So, for example, you could have this feeling um, like it's just not working out. I'm creating a message and it's just not working out, which is actually God, or like all these things are happening and I'm trying to create a message here. So it's actually God who is doing this. So now we have the Gavia card. So this is again this moving through this impossible situation. So you're trying to be a messenger, but you're like moving through this really, really impossible situation in your personal life. And this also causes, there's a side effect to this. What this also causes is that you are becoming more grounded. And as you are becoming more grounded, you are becoming more powerful, right? So there's something about that God is perhaps making it impossible for you to create messages. But as a result of that, you are much more present in your earthly life. So you're doing much more earthly activities. You are spending more time with your children, with your partner, your spouse, your family members, just handling physical things. So you are very much focused on this, and this is making you really grounded. And as a result of that, you are becoming a stronger bridge towards from between God and earth, right? Between God and humanity. So that is actually what God is doing, I think. So there's a really, really powerful effect. So you will actually become stronger in what you're doing, which is also why you're not supposed to share so many messages, right? Because they are so powerful. It could even be your energy that's incredibly powerful. And so also maybe because the What is the Wild is like on a carbon at really, really fast movement, right? So it could be that this is actually creating the movement you are seeking. So it could be that by you sharing less messages, you are actually creating more momentum, for example. Or it could be that you are actually hitting you are incredibly intentional, because there's something about Sagittarius hits the mark, right? But Sagittarius has a vision, is very, very intentional. So it may also help you to navigate, right? Maybe you're also being able to navigate um, much more intentional, but there's something really powerful in this intention, right? You are perhaps gaining fast momentum as a result of that. So maybe you're not seeing it yet, but you are creating fast momentum. And there's definitely no witchcraft holding you back here, right? There's no demonic attack here happening. So yeah, so let's see. This is God actually holding you back, because you are creating momentum. You are much creating much more momentum than you think. You are creating much more fast progression than you think. And like the what as well as well, in combination with the friends card, this is like God uplifting you, taking you to the next level. So you are creating momentum, right? You are moving forward. You are creating progress, and you have no idea that you are doing this, right? So it is really, really powerful. And even you, for example, it could be timing, like the right timing, perhaps. Maybe you are not able to move that fast, because this is a little bit like a horse being held back, right? But like you are not being able to move that fast because of all of these blockages, but and these impossible situations that you have to navigate. But because you are not able to move that fast, like a wild horse being reined in, right? You are making fast movement. You're making lots of momentum. You have no idea that you are doing this. So you're moving quickly towards the future. That's what this wants to say. And then we have Mike the Biomancer, who is an observer. So maybe you're also becoming a little bit of an outside observer to what you are witnessing in the outside world. You're not so much present in society. You're not really present on social media, perhaps. You're not really engaging with the world very much, or just in your close circle. But there is this being an outsider is also part of this being a really really powerful messenger. You are definitely coming into your own energy, right? You're becoming an outside observer upon reality. And there's also something, perhaps, I don't know if you have or also experiencing this, but I'm receiving ideas that pertain um, to older eras, right? Eras that are like a gone by eras. So maybe you're getting vintage inspiration, you could say, or you're getting you're maybe it's just talking about inspirations, right? That you are receiving inspirations, and these inspirations, they are lucky inspirations, right? This could also, perhaps, I'm seeing this card of like synchronicity in the Colette Baron Reed deck. So there is lucky synchronicity happening here, and you are listening, right? It makes me think as well, like this looks a little bit like a clover bush in the background. So your listening is very lucky. You are uh, your synchronicities are very very interesting, and you can learn a lot from those synchronicities that are happening, right? Those lucky signs, but also like there's something about natural. And also, these are holy signs. These are holy synchronicities. Why am I saying that? Because I bought this communion bracelet for like the first communion, right? For my godchild, right? My niece. And this clover has something to do with the Holy Communion as a result of that right now in terms of symbolism. So I do think that there is a holy communion again, I'm getting chills, and which means to me like God saying like yes, yes, that's what I'm saying, like exactly on point. That's what I'm seeking to convey, right? So it's like what God wants to say is that I'm almost becoming emotional here. There is a holy communion happening here, right? So in your earthly existence, you are in holy communion with God, right? Because you are so grounded, you're so living in everyday life, you're becoming such a powerful bridge between heaven and earth, between God and humanity, right? A divine messenger. So yeah, those things that you are observing, what you are receiving, right? Like in terms of you're in holy communion with God through these synchronistic things that are happening, these signs that you are seeing, right? But these are not really signs, it's holy communion. So it means that God is communicating through you through reality, right? And it's really, really powerful, this communication. Um, and also because you're coming back to yourself as well, right? And then we have letting go and consuming. So the pair it speeds up like when you eat a pear, like you can, I don't know, like you can move towards the toilet quicker, right? Like it makes it run faster. So maybe you are able to perhaps process more. Maybe you're able to process a lot more. You are receiving a lot more, and you're not even, yeah, well, it could be that you're not realizing it, or maybe you are experiencing symptoms of that. Maybe you are like receiving a lot more of a much higher nature, and maybe you also need to ground, like really live very very earthly existence in order for you to really process that, right? Really process what is happening, because there could be that it could be that you are also with this green color. It could be that you are up leveling here, right? That you are uh, up leveling in terms of what you are receiving. So it can be you may be processing, receiving much more of a much higher nature, much more perhaps, much more complicated things. So I've been noticing that in my messages that the messages I'm receiving are almost too complicated for me, right? So, which means that you have to up level, right? You have to get on par with that. So it could be that you are also having an upgrade happening right now. Could be, perhaps. There's something here about letting go and processing, consuming. Like it's more like processing things. So maybe you are divinely processing. Number three is divine, eh? Divine processing. You may divinely be divinely processing a lot of things, and it goes much faster, perhaps as well. There's a lot more for you to process, and it's incredibly lucky. It's going to create luck for you. It's going to create synchronistic events for you. Also in terms of like serendipity. This is a card of serendipity too. Like it will be creating serendipity for you. So it means that you will have perfect timing. Just like I said, you will have the perfect timing. You will be able to go much faster as a result of that. And there is also something about serendipity that you are at exactly the right place at the right time, which is exactly what luck is all about, right? So, yeah, there's something really unique happening there. So, and then at the bottom of the deck, we get very complicated. Yeah, it could be that there is something about that it may be incredibly complicated, what you are pulling off, perhaps. And there's something about an unbelievable accomplishment. So it could be maybe you are sharing unbelievably accurate messages. Could be that. It could also be because your messages may be incredibly layered. So it could be that the messages that you are giving are like there's so much there, right? So it could be that you are speaking in a symbolic language. There's also something here about layered. Maybe your messages are incredibly layered, perhaps. And there's so when something is incredibly layered, it could be that it is speaking to an incredibly large audience, right? So these are like messages that speak to so many people in very, very personal ways. So maybe you are speaking in ways that you have no idea about. It may be incredibly attuned to incredible amounts of people, and you may not even realize how layered this is, right? How complicated this is, how sophisticated it is, or like how much of an accomplishment you're actually naturally putting out, for example, right? But there's also something here about maybe the messages that you are receiving. Again, this upgrade, it may be incredibly complicated, incredibly layered what you are receiving. So the messages that you are about to have to share may be incredibly complicated in nature. It may require an upgrade, for example, right? And it could also be that it will be an unbelievable accomplishment, or maybe if you were to pull that off, that would be an unbelievable accomplishment. And it could also be like an impossible accomplishment in a way. Well, it's more like complicated and unbelievable, right? So maybe other people are saying that like this is unbelievable what you are doing, for example, right? Maybe you are hitting the target way more than you are realizing, because like creating a croissant is like really, really difficult, right? Like it's a work of art to be able to create such a thing, right? So and it takes a lot of time too. So I do think perhaps if you are creating like the messages you may have to share in the future, they may be incredibly layered. So they could be that the messages that you need to share in the future, that they may take a lot of time to create. They may be incredibly complicated what you are sharing, and it would be an unbelievable achievement if you were to be able to pull that from heaven onto earth, right? So maybe you are moving into a quite an interesting time. And the number 19 here, the tower in Lenormand, means a fortress. So you need to go into a fortress of solitude, of alone time, right? So God is creating this solitude, this fortress of alone time. And also there's a bull. Looks a little bit like a bull, but it also looks a little bit like a deer skull. So what this means to me is, on the one hand, this is again very fascinating. It looks a little bit like this card here, and it has this idea about Taurus a little bit in it. So it has something to do with being a messenger. So you are being a messenger in the fortress, a protected messenger within the fortress. And the fortress could, of course, also connect to the secret place, right? God creating a fortress around you in terms of energy, perhaps as well. So you being alone, you being in your own energy is a fortress, perhaps, right? And there is something about that God is blocking anything to come into that fortress because you are supposed to create certain things, right? In this divine fortress, in this secret place. And there's also something where the deer makes me think about the rune Algis, right? And Algis talks about again, this is like prayer, like you are in prayer with God, you are in holy communion with God within this fortress. And the sun, number 19, the sun card, the child. So you're coming back to innocence. You are becoming perhaps more playful, perhaps. There is something about that you are discovering things, perhaps in this fortress. Um, you are receiving. You're very much open to receiving. Um, and also, there's something about like being protected by God in this fortress, because Algis also talks about divine protection, right? So you are being protected within this fortress, you're being in holy communion within this fortress. And there's also something interesting with these smoke. There's smoke on both sides, right? So maybe you are sending out signals within this fortress, right? Divine signals. So yeah, you may be sending out divine signals within this fortress, and it may be much more powerful than you think. These signals that you are sharing with the world, right? Even the signs, like if you are sharing signs with the world, the signs you are receiving, they are not just for you, right? They may have a much bigger impact on the world at large that you may not even be realizing, right? So I'm wishing you a very beautiful day ahead, and I hope this was helpful to you. Bye bye.